Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. My name is Jamal Jones. I'm the Director of Business Development with the City of Harrisburg. Thank you for joining us at today's webinar, Small Business Financing Options During COVID-19. We realize the tremendous impact that the pandemic has had on the business community, not to mention the business community, but not to mention just our lives in general. Today, we want to provide some financial solutions to help your business get back on track. Today, we'll have presentations from three speakers representing the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Community First Fund, and Penny and Bank. We realize that everyone has their own financial history, has their own experiences with lending and with banks. And for that reason, realizing that at the end of the day, we're all consumers. We want to provide three different experts, three different perspectives from their organizations that they represent to give you the best options that are available and allow you to make the decisions that are going to be best for you and your business. So we'll start with our first presenter. And again, for our presenters, just wanted to remind you, when it's your turn to speak, if you can just unmute and open up your camera. And then as we move on to the next presenter, you can go back camera off as the next presenter comes on screen. Okay, so we'll get started with Solomon. You can begin. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Hopefully you can see me. I had a last minute emergency. The electric company came onto the block and was doing some work, so it shut everything off just about 10 minutes ago. So I kind of ran to a friend's place. But the point is, Jamal, certainly I appreciate you inviting the SBA to this. We are continuing to roll out a number of large programs that are really helping small businesses to find opportunities. And I'll talk a little bit about PPP today, idle and shuttered venues. We're still waiting for more additional information. We're expecting to see new information on the restaurant revitalization program. So there's continually more programs coming out to hopefully provide relief. I'm going to try to share my screen here and just flip through some slides very quickly. And certainly I would say Yesenia or Lou, if you have any feedback on any of this stuff in terms of the Economic Aid overview, you're welcome to chime in. Can everyone see the Economic Aid overview? 2021 COVID-19, just let me know that you can see that.
No, I do not see it.
Maybe in the meantime, Yesenia, are you ready? Do you want to just go ahead and we can double back to you, Solomon?
Yeah, I can. I am trying to, let me see if I can bring it up for him. Can you guys see that? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
I can.
Solomon, I have your PowerPoint up.
Oh, okay. You are viewing view options. Okay. Okay, there it is. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, so let's run through this a little quickly so that we can, like I said, just get some information out there. This is really all, like I said, from the Economic Aid overview. All of this information can be found on sba.gov. So I would encourage everyone, if you want to learn more about the programs, to go ahead and go to the website. Let's scroll through the first couple of slides and get right to the PPP program. Go ahead and scroll, Yesenia. Yeah. Keep going. 1, 2, go to the next one. Keep moving. That's good. Stop there. We'll stop there. So let's just talk a few momentarily about First Draw. This was SBA's really primary effort at getting help, and this is the Paycheck Protection Loan Eligibility Program. The couple of things to keep in mind is that, there's still, you have to comply with size standards. What we incorporated were newly eligible organizations such as housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, which are really tour companies, certain 501c6 organizations, and then eligible news organizations. There's been no change in the standard eligibility. So all the things like sole props, business entities, partnerships, corps, LLC, still all eligible for the program. And that would include 501c3s and 501c19 organizations, which are veterans organizations. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, well, you're on the second draw PPP eligibility. Well, we'll talk about that. So the second draw PPP, this was again a program that came out, really with the latest. This was the package that was released in January, but essentially, the second draw PPP loan eligibility, you must have previously received a first draw PPP loan, and that really the covered periods couldn't overlap. So there's some additional eligibility, and this was really the key eligibility. This is a program that's scheduled to actually end this week, March 31st. We're hoping that Congress extends it, but we just haven't heard anything yet from the current administration. But some of the key eligibility criteria is, you must have used or will use the first full draw PPP loan amount, and that's really only eligible expenses before the second draw loan can be dispersed. You must have no more than 300 employees, and then you have to demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts. And that's really through comparable quarters. So the example I always use is, if you did 10,000 in second quarter of 2019 and you did 7,500 in second quarter of 2020, that represents a 25% decline. So certainly that would be potentially eligible. Lou, I know you're out there. I'm wondering if, do you have anything that you might want to add in terms of what have you been seeing in terms of second draw? There's been lots of activity, and we're hoping that Congress does extend this thing. Though, do you have any perspective on second draw?
Sure. We've been very busy with second draws. Been going fairly smoothly. We've been doing second draws for our existing clients, and we've been doing second draws for clients that got their loans somewhere first. We are, as a community bank, we are making sure we identify and the clients that are applying for the loans, we're able to properly document their business structures and do that. But it's been going very well.
Okay. Yeah. It didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but it's always good to get perspective, certainly from what our SBA participating lenders are doing. Let's go to the next slide. Let's keep it moving. See if we can. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So, this is stop right there. You said this is a PPP loan application process. That looks good. So, this is what, the SBA has laid out. And of course, again, when you're dealing with your bank, it may be a little different. Most of our SBA participating lenders have, kind of put together a portal that captures the information, but essentially you can find a lender through Lender Match, and that's an SBA site. You can use any of these searches to capture an SBA participating lender that's been authorized to be a PPP lender. It's the step 2 is really just simply completing the application, including all the supporting detail. And then typically once you submit that through your bank, the bank then kind of does a cursory review, and SBA will issue a loan number. So, the big headline from this slide is March 31st, which is tomorrow, is really the end of the program or when the funds are exhausted. I think there's still funding left, so I'm hopeful that this program gets extended at least another couple of months. Let's go to the next slide. This slide really just talks about, the loan terms, really no change. Keep in mind, it's a fixed interest rate on these PPP loans, non-compounding. So very generous terms, no requirement for collateral, no personal guarantees, no fees or prepayment penalties. Typically, the maturity is 5 years. In some cases, it is 2 years, but borrowers can actually ask their lender to extend to 5 years. Payments usually start once the borrower knows how much of the PPP loan will be forgiven, and we're seeing that forgiveness process get better. They're trying to prioritize, SBA that is, trying to prioritize and really get loans processed. Some of the larger ones, keep in mind, larger PPP loans greater than 2 million are going to be audited anyway, so there's a slower process from that perspective. But the point is that the terms of these PPP loans are fairly generous. Let's go to the next slide, Yesenia. What can I say? Let's see. So this is, they talk about, this is really talking about more forgiveness, but the one thing that I want you to take away from this slide is that there's been an update to this idle advance, and they were originally being deducted from forgiveness. That was rescinded. So Congress basically listened to feedback from constituents and said, that you're giving with the left and taking with the right. So they basically struck that down, and they no longer will deduct idle advances. And you know who you are. Typically, if you got an idle advance, which was a grant, they were netting that against the forgiveness, and we felt that wasn't the right thing to do. So that's been fixed. And there's been simplification in the way these things are processed based on loans under 150,000. But the other thing that's really good news that I want you to take from this slide is that forgiven PPP loans are not federally taxable. So there should be no negative tax implications, from these federal loan programs. Let's go to the next slide. Jamal, please keep me on track. Let me know what I'm doing in terms of time. The economic injury disaster loan, the quickest way to sum this up is that the loan program is still open. If you believe your small business or any small business out there that's being impacted by COVID, still being impacted, and there are plenty, we encourage you to go ahead and apply. That portal will remain open until December 31st or until the funds run out. Keep in mind, use of proceeds, typically for working capital, fairly generous there, from rents, utilities, fixed debt payments. No, you can't pay off long-term debt, but certainly you can use it to pay fixed debt payments. Terms are generous, 3.75 fixed for 30 years or 2.75 for nonprofits. There's some minimal fees if there's a UCC filing placed, but really nothing really onerous. Still same eligibility requirements, 500 or fewer employees. But and the one other thing I'll add is that there's been extensions to the deferments, typically anywhere from 18 to 24 months, depending on when you got the idle loan. Okay, so that's all I'll say about that. Go ahead and apply for it if you really believe you still need it, because that program is still open. Next slide, please.
Solomon, you can take about another minute, and then we'll move on. And if you have anything else,
okay.
you can come back at the
fine.
end.
Yep, that's fine. And so what I'll do is I'll wrap it up on this slide. So the targeted idle advance, essentially for those small businesses that did not get the full 10,000, SBA has a kind of structured approach. They're going to go back and see if those companies qualify. They're going to use two different criteria. If you're in a low-income community and if you've suffered 30% greater economic loss, they're going to revisit whether or not you got the full 10,000, and they're going to basically try to make you whole in terms of the 10,000. So that's another program that's underway right now. And so anything else, as far as shuttered venues, as far as the restaurant revital, those are grant programs. Those are not loan programs. They are not open yet. They are not accepting applications, but those are two of the next biggest programs to really look out for if you've been impacted by COVID. But I'll wrap from that perspective. Okay, thanks very much for your attention. If anyone has any follow-up questions, they're certainly welcome to send me an email at solomon.wheeler@sba.gov. I will put it in the chat also. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon.
Thank you, Yesenia. Appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Yesenia, for helping out there. And then Yesenia, if you are ready, then you can come on screen and we'll listen to your presentation.
Thank you for having me. Let me share my screen. Oh, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so how do I, okay, there it goes. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, this mouse is very sensitive. So I'm Yesenia Lefevre, a community lender with Community First Fund. I cover the Harrisburg region. and temporarily the Reading area as well. So what is Community First Fund? We are a CDFI, a community development financial institution. We assist borrowers primarily owned by people of color, women, and immigrants, typically generating capital for small businesses. We were established in 1992, and since then have provided $345 million in financing to nearly 5,300 small businesses and nonprofits across 20 counties in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. We recently merged, well, as of last year, with Finanza. They're based out in Kensington, Philadelphia, and they are similar to us, CDFI, that provides financing for small businesses. So what do? We do microloans for small businesses, any capital for like $50,000 or less. We do commercial real estate, housing development, and organizations for nonprofits. Our typical, we underwrite the riskier deals, basically like the startups, daycares, restaurants. Basically, if they don't get approved through a traditional bank, they can come to us and we will work with the SBA as well as other grant funding programs to get them approved. So we provide access to capital by providing loans. Again, what a traditional lender wouldn't consider based off of, due to the risk as far as capital, collateral and startup capital and higher risk deals, we are able to partner with the SBA to get them approved. We provide technical assistance, so we help with projections and business plans. And we also assist with post-technical assistance. So during like COVID, we assisted our clients with getting grant funds and assisting them with the various PPP programs. Throughout the COVID, we assisted multiple businesses. We did 15 million and 461 loans for the first round, and we underwrote those deals ourselves. So on the second round, we decided to collaborate with Community Reinvestment Fund to assist us with the underwriting for the second round, well, consider the third round. And we did 4 million and 120 loans. This number is as of last Friday, so I'm sure it went up, but as of right now. And then we did 50 million in state grants and 41 million in county grants. So we are continuously helping small business throughout the pandemic. And then we also help with, like right now, I have a couple of deals as far as startup and businesses needing funds for working capital. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions or interested or need any assistance as far as TA for business plans, financials, you can email me or give me a call.
Thank you, Yesenia. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said mine is short and simple.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, we appreciate it.
No
Lou, if you're ready, then you can be next up. And then for all our attendees following Lou's presentation, we will have some time for questions and answers. So if you have questions, you can place them in the chat. That's one way, or you can raise your hand using the raise your hand function, and I can identify you there. But if you have questions, hang on to those, and we'll give you a chance to share momentarily. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamal. And I have no slides. So Jamal, if you want to put up pretty pictures or instructions or anything you'd like the audience to see, go right ahead while I'm talking. I'm just going to have a general discussion, a general banking discussion about bank lending during the pandemic, what's been happening this past year, the service partners that we've worked with, and I'm really speaking for all the community, all the bankers out there, as to how banks have been addressing this and working with our clients and new clients too. Banks are still lending. I know that some of you may not think that, and some of you may know that we are, but for projects where we can traditionally underwrite a loan request and get comfortable with the loan parameters, the cash flow that's going to repay the loan payment, that's number one in the banker's eyes. bankers like to use history to predict the future, and that's not always accurate. And especially now that 2019, excuse me, was not the best year to base any history on, and we have to take some reasonable steps to document what we think might happen in the future as we're doing some new loans right now. So just wanted to say that the key in all of this, my whole presentation is going to be communication. If you're an existing banking client with your business, I really encourage you to get as close to your banker, for lack of a better word, as possible, to keep them up to speed on what's been happening in this past year, the good and the bad, if there's been bad, and document that. So that's just what I wanted to, that's really the key to the whole thing, is keeping your bank informed of what's been happening with your business, whether it's through your internal bookkeeping and financial reports that you're doing, and that would go in the past. So what happened between the end of 2019 and into 2020 with the pandemic, and what does it look like for 2021? Those are all things that we're very eager to help you work through and help understand what the prognosis is going to look like as the economy starts to recover. So a couple of things that banks have done. Last year started up, most of them started up a payment deferral program. So if you have existing business loans with your bank, and there's a good chance that they may still offer, and did offer, I know, in 2020, payment deferrals. So for a certain period of time, you can go into your bank and say, listen, I have this loan, business is off, and I'd like to defer my payments for 4 or 6 months. Doing a lot of that, and it could be a complete payment deferral, or if you just need a little bit of help, maybe it was a deferral of the principal payments, but you still paid your interest only. So if you have existing loans with your bank and you're having some difficulty, please ask them if they have a loan deferral program. Other than that, some other things that banks have been doing, we have, for where it makes sense and where we're able to, we are able to, interest rates are lower than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. Sometimes we're able to reduce an interest rate for the right reasons, and that you should talk to your banker about. Everybody's going to have a different right reason to do that, and that has really helped some people think about their current cash flow income and their current expenses and debt service, for that matter, and how best can they position them. So we've been doing a fair amount of that. We have been very active, as Solomon pointed out early in the presentation. We have with the PPP loan program. The PPP program has been wonderful. It's interesting, and how many people this program has helped all over the country, not just here, and all the banks are doing it. It's been quite a program, as you all know, and I'm going to really paraphrase here with the PPP program just to back up, and Solomon can jump on and say that's not exactly true whenever he wants to. But a year ago, a little more than a year ago now, the crisis, the pandemic, the crisis was declared, and the federal government jumped to action, and they said we need a gigantic grant program for the country, for our small and medium-sized businesses, and we need to do it quickly. And they come up with a lot of money to do it. And within about a week or two, they decided that, well, oh my gosh, this is such a large grant program, there is no possible way that the federal government could administer a grant program. So they went to the SBA, and they went to Solomon, and they said, Solomon, can you guys help us hand all this money out? Billions of dollars. And Solomon did, yes, we can. And they developed a PPP loan program, which is really a grant program. It's supposed to be a grant program. Whole idea behind the PPP is that you request your PPP loan based on your previous year's payroll, with some additional enhancements for sole proprietors and farmers as well, and traditional businesses that have a payroll. and you apply through your bank. So you're applying through your own bank. It works smoothest and best if you go through the bank where you have your checking accounts, your business checking accounts, because then the burden is less on the bank to verify your entity, and also makes it faster to get the loan. And your loan calculation based on your specific situation is there. The bank applies on your behalf to the SBA. The SBA comes back in just a couple of days and said, yep, make that loan, and we make the loan. And then you have a period of time, typically it's now turned into 24 weeks, 6 months, to spend the money on the PPP loan money on the right things that you've agreed to spend it on, primarily payroll, some business utilities, business interest expense, and a couple other smaller categories. Most people, the way the loans are calculated, most firms that have regular payrolls that are not heavy in the other expenses, they're heaviest in payroll, which most businesses in the Central Pennsylvania area are heaviest in the payroll businesses. Then they would have no problem spending that money on payroll for their employees and the owner's payroll too. No issue spending that in 24 weeks. And at the end of the 24 weeks, you can apply to have it forgiven. It's forgiven. All the while, you're not making any payments in that loan. And the loans are accruing 1% interest, but the SBA is paying that interest for you at this time. And then the whole idea is for you to apply for the loan to be forgiven, and the bank collects the information we need to collect. It's become a very simple process for loans under $150,000, and it's easy for the other loans too. So don't believe everything you read in the paper. It can be done. Lots of folks are doing it, and we've had hundreds of loans forgiven already from last year as we're writing the new loans for this year. So please, if you have not gotten a PPP loan, and you were in business as of February the 15th of 2020, if you have not gotten a PPP loan yet, please talk to your banker about the PPP program and see and do that. Even if you had got one last year, you can get another one this year, as long as you need it. Now, of course, that's the underlying message, is that, and that's all self-declared at this point. It's all self-declared whether you have been adversely affected or not, and it's a yes/no question. So there's no harm, no foul. I didn't screw up, did I, Solomon? Did I say anything I shouldn't have?
No, that sounds great. I wish I had a couple of billion in my back pocket, but other than that, no, I think you did a wonderful job, and I agree with everything that you said.
Thank you. Well, so that's the PPP program. So that's what's happening. Unfortunately, there's no magic. I wish there was. I've been doing this a long time, and whether it's magic in interest rates or magic in approving a loan or being able to approve a loan or any type of magic, there's just no magic. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work on the banker's point, but it's a lot of more hard work on the customer's point. So again, finishing up with communication. If you are you're in business for yourself, please do the best you can to establish a relationship with your local banker that handles your accounts. That is absolutely key, and let them know what's happening in your business. So I think I'll let it there, Jamal. I think I'll just let it there, and you can take us on from there.
Thanks a lot, Lou. Again, great information about PPP. I think a lot of these programs from EIDL to to PPP are things which we've all heard about over the past year, but sometimes people still have questions, or especially if you're a new business and just kind of got slammed by the pandemic, and now you're in a position where you need to explore some financing options. This can all be new, so it's great that we were able to have you guys as the experts here to explain a little bit more to everyone today about how to pursue lending for their businesses. If we have any questions now from the audience, we can open it up. Feel free to use the Q&A. If you want to put your questions there, then we can go about it that way. I'll actually start us off. I had a couple questions. Lou, you talked about establishing that that lending relationship, and it's something that you hear about often. How do you go about that? I think, obviously, I heard you say that, you want to, share information with your lender, but, for a person who's just kind of coming in cold and maybe, does not have a lending relationship, as we said, with the person who's new to business, it could be an early stage entrepreneur, how do they go about establishing that relationship? What are some kind of tips that you would suggest there?
Sure. Well, the tip I would suggest is if you use a bank that has branches, I would get in and see the local branch manager. That's a great place to start. And some of those are also business loan officers. They do both. And ask for an appointment, sit down and talk to them, and tell your story. Whether it's a brand new business, where that is, you're going to tell a story. You're going to put together what's called a business plan. You may be getting help from some of the other partner organizations out there to do that. And then you want to sit down and talk to the banker about it. And you know what? There may not be a loan in there this year. There may not be a loan in there next year. But you've established the relationship. When you get the business started, you're going to need to have a deposit account to deposit your money and write your checks from and make your payments from. And that's also important, that the bank you talk to about financing is able to see what your business has done. So if you're already established business, that includes some of your historical information. But I think the short answer to your question is you've got to find someone at your bank who has the time and is willing to meet with you. And the best place to start is your local branch. And go from there. Even if it's not the branch manager, maybe you just know somebody that works in the bank, and you say, hey, Doug, I know this isn't what you do for the bank, but can you introduce me to somebody that does? And there's a good way to get started too.
Hey, Jamal, this is Solomon. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Lou. Yep, I can hear you, Solomon.
I just wanted to add to that. I would encourage any small businesses out there listening, or entrepreneurs, to join their, local chamber, join their local trade association, because there's nothing like referrals, right? You say, hey, look, they may talk to a small business owner and said, I know Lou Davy. He's wonderful. He really believes in small businesses. Or I know Yesenia. She's just fantastic. Those types of testimonies, I think, can be very powerful, and it helps to kind of, really identify people that have established a solid reputation. So I would just encourage small businesses out there to join, your local trade organizations or chambers.
Thank you for adding it there, Solomon. Yeah, that's those relationships and just the importance of referrals and networking, I think is vital in business, because it just helps to provide some background and tells a little bit about reputation, and if someone can vouch for you, sometimes that can assist you greatly. I had another question. I'll start again with you, Lou, and then if anyone else wants to speak to that, you can. But how much does personal credit history play a role in a person being able to establish business credit? I know sometimes that's a concern for people if they some of us had credit card issues as young adults, and have been working to rectify that. But maybe for a person that just doesn't have great personal credit history, how much does that affect their ability to establish business credit?
It does affect that. It creates the conversation, and it all depends on the banker and really the bank, really not the banker, the bank that you're talking with. In doing that, it depends on the credit history itself and the willingness of the bank to actually look at the credit history and let's not look at a score and just not look at a credit score, but talk to the person about what's on the credit history, what caused it, and what was being done to fix it, and that and then how it's going to look in the future. And I think that's key. I would be remiss and it'd be rude if I didn't say there are some situations where the credit is damaged enough and recently damaged currently damaged, that, you know, sometimes a traditional bank loan just isn't, or a traditional bank loan with an SBA credit enhancement support behind it. And we didn't even talk about that, but that's really Solomon's game, that it can affect that. So, you know, again, protect your personal credit the best that you can. If you do have a problem, document why you've had the problem, what caused the problem, and what has fixed the problem, and then go from there. And that's the easiest way to say it. It's a discussion that needs to be had, and it should be had right up front.
Thank you for that, Lou. I know that's a question that I hear often, you know, just from individuals that are going into business for themselves, but, you know, may have had some previous credit issues in the past. Next, I had a question for Yesenia. Wanted to ask if you could, and, you know, maybe you spoke about it in your presentation, but just for any of our listeners, could you kind of briefly just explain the difference between a CDFI and a traditional bank, you know, just for someone that may not be familiar, you know, with CDFIs or familiar with a Community First Fund? Can you just tell us a little bit about what the difference is between a CDFI and a traditional bank?
So we are a nonprofit, and we are funded through grant funding programs and federal funding or investors. And our mission is different from traditional banks as far as like small business owners, people of color, women-owned businesses. So we have these communities where we have to focus on providing funding for these businesses with a mission. So that's, again, women-owned businesses, people of color, startups. And to go off of what Lou said, basically, so they wouldn't get approved for a deal because of their credit or collateral at a traditional bank. They can come to us. We assist with the riskier deals, and we partner with the SBA to kind of support us. But basically, it's our mission as far as the needs of the community for which we serve, and we take a look at the business owner's personal as well as the business. So we look at the credit background, the business plan, the projections, and like the need for it within that community. So
Great.
And we have a lot of grant programs that we work with. So
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. That's a question I get, you know, often some of the time, you know, which is kind of what is the difference there. We have a question from the one of our attendees, so I'm going to unmute you and let you ask your question. Mitzi, are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Oh, hi. Thank you for your time. I was wondering if you provide business loans to start a business overseas.
So to start a business overseas was your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if any of one of our panelists would want to answer that, in any of your respective organizations, do you provide loans to start businesses overseas?
Unfortunately, Community First Fund does not. We only focus on our target areas. So that would be the counties within like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't fund any overseas.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Mitzi, it's Solomon. So the one thing so the SBA certainly is really focused on, you know, domestic businesses that, you know, are focused on building a domestic business, but also could potentially be exporting to other countries. So it just really depends on the particular business. So for example, an education company that actually provides webinars to students that could be outside of the country. That's, you know, you're doing it, but you're kind of exporting your learning experience. So it just really depends on specifically what you're doing. I'd say, you know, generally speaking, you know, the SBA is really a kind of for U.S. citizens and for, you know, kind of domestic based businesses, generally speaking.
Okay. Okay. So because My intentions is to provide some type of education overseas. However, I didn't know if there's funding for that. So if, like you stated, if it's like providing educational, it can be done.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking, that, if you're say you form your business here in Pennsylvania, and you say, well, while I'm traveling in Japan or Brazil, I'm going to teach English. You still may be, funneling, money and tax dollars back to the U.S. So you could, in theory, you're a domestic-based company that's just simply exporting a learning experience. So that there's a possibility that you could qualify, but it just depends on kind of exactly what you're trying to do. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, so do I contact your office to find out?
Yeah, if you want to send me an email, we can talk through it, and I'd be happy to help you and connect you with, some folks that might be able to kind of get you started. The small business development centers, which are located throughout the state of Pennsylvania and throughout the country, are great with helping folks put together a strategy to think through what exactly are you trying to do. And
Okay.
that's what I would encourage you to start with. If you're in where are you located? What county are you in?
I'm in Cumberland County.
Okay. Shippensburg SBDC would be someone I'd probably try to connect you with.
Okay, so I have a question. I am in Cumberland County, but I'm closer to Harrisburg. I know most anything for Cumberland County is usually out in Carlisle, but it's easy because I live in New Cumberland. So it's easier for me just to cross over the bridge and get to everything than to travel to Carlisle.
Yeah, that's fine. I would say the SBDCs are meeting virtually now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so get my email, solomon.wheeler@sba.gov, or put your email in the chat and let's connect.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
We have any other questions from our audience? Feel free to ask. It's not always that you get a chance to just kind of be in front of some experts in the field. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask, and we can talk a little bit more.
Can I make one more comment, Jamal, about the credit issue? I just mentioned, the economic disaster loan, they definitely do look at credit. Yeah, if they do look at credit, but we've tried to kind of relax those standards to help people, acquire those loans. We've seen scores sub 610, 620, which typically are not great scores, but we've tried to get those approved, and assuming that there weren't any real outstanding issues. So from our perspective, that's why we're just still encouraging small businesses to apply for EIDL. The one showstopper is delinquent child support. But certainly we've seen whether life occurrences like divorce and medical issues, those aren't necessarily barriers. So don't say, oh, I've got terrible credit, I shouldn't apply. Don't self-select out. Go ahead and try to apply, and let the processing center make that decision. The one other thing I'll add real quickly is that there are a number of apps that help you to track your credit. They let you kind of track where you're spending, what your mortgages are, what your percentage of credit card debt is. Credit Karma is one of those. I use it. I think it's great. But certainly I would look at some apps that can kind of help you track where your credit score is, and it doesn't really cost you anything to do that. That's it.
Thank you for that, Solomon. That's important. Yeah, definitely. You don't want to screen yourself out of the process just because you may be a little worried or insecure about your own past credit history. So you want to still apply and let the banks or let the organizations kind of get back to you with the information about what you would qualify for in terms of financing. I did want to mention, I did mention at the beginning that this session is being recorded and will be available on the city's YouTube for you to view in about a day or so. Also wanted to mention, I don't know if you did, Lou, but Lou, could you just tell a little bit about who you are and about Penny and Bank, just for anyone that's not familiar with with you guys.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, Penny and Bank, until a few years ago, was formerly known as the First National Bank of Mifflintown. Sleepy little agricultural bank, headquarters in Juniata County with offices in both Juniata and Perry. And a few years ago, we decided, well, you know what? Probably about 10 years ago, we needed to grow a little bit and we need to expand our footprint a little bit. So guys like me came along, and you know, I'm in the general East Shore, West Shore area, living there anyway. So I went to work for the bank. I knew I had a friend that worked there and said, hey, listen, here's what we're trying to do. And a couple other folks and gals and came on, and we've really expanded the footprint to the point where a few years ago, as the First National Bank of Mifflintown, we were doing business in, the whole area. East Shore, West Shore, York, Lancaster, Adams County, all the way up to Williamsport. I had a client in Erie, Huntington, State College, you know, a big wide footprint. But unfortunately, except for people that live in Perry or Juniata County, everybody thought, well, Mifflintown, where's Mifflintown? Oh, wait, I know. It's halfway to State College where the Sheets and the McDonald's are right beside each other. Is that right? And we'd say, yes, that's right. So we apparently paid marketing firm. No, I'm kidding. So we went through the process of changing our name. And that was a process in itself that took a year or so. And we did it about 3 years ago, maybe almost 4 now. And we just rebranded ourselves as Penny and Bank, and we actually opened an office in Lemoyne. So we have one in Lemoyne right now, over near the Radisson, and near the Camp Hill Post Office there on the bypass, right off the bypass. So we have expanded, and the bank is in expansion mode. So we'll see what happens in the future. But that's the story of Penny and Bank.
Thank you so much, Lou. Just wanted to give you an opportunity just to let people know who Penny and Bank is, and that you are like you said, just in Lemoyne, which is just across the bridge from Harrisburg. So again, today was mainly just about presenting and providing different options for businesses that are looking into these kinds of programs, looking into financing. Looking for ways to recover from the pandemic, and want to grow and continue just to sustain their businesses. So we're coming just up on 11 o'clock. Are there any other questions from our attendees? Feel free. We actually had to disable the chat, but if you do want to raise your hand, I can open it up so you can have a chance to speak, or you can use the Q&A function if you do have a question. So just wanted to give you one final chance here to have your questions answered before we wrap up. Either Solomon or Yesenia, did you have any final words before we close here?
No, I just encourage everyone, like Lou had mentioned, if you need funding, reach out to your institution, and then if it doesn't work out, typically we have connections with within the community as far as partnering with banks and stuff, so they are able to refer to Community First Fund.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would close with I was about that. I was going to say, so I would just close with, the 2 grant programs that I'd mentioned. The shuttered venue operators grants, really for folks that are in performing arts, live venues, etc. There's a broad array of businesses that'll be eligible, and there is quite a bit of information on the SBA website. They're not accepting applications just yet, but that should be imminent. So I'd encourage you to go and learn more about that program. And then the other big one, the restaurant revitalization program, will be targeting everything from bars to restaurants to cafes, etc. So we expect there to be a strong response from businesses that were really impacted. So just, stay on the lookout for that grant program also. Thank you. I appreciate your attention today.
Thank you for that, Solomon. And finally, just to wrap up, again, I wanted to thank all of our panelists. Thank you, Solomon, Yesenia, and Lou for being here. Great information that you provided today. I hope it has been useful to our attendees. I want to thank you all for joining us as well. And just in closing, I'll say if you do have additional questions about these kinds of programs and workshops, or just other questions about solutions offered to your businesses in Harrisburg, feel free to reach out to us at, you can email business development, all one word, business development at harrisburgpa.gov. That's business development at harrisburgpa.gov. Thank you again for attending. Everyone, stay safe.